And we're back. Sunday show over here on the Top 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 podcast. I'm your host, Harrison Reno. Alongside me, co-hosts Dan Kiley, Kobe Piers. Gentlemen, it's 7, no, it's 8:30, good God, over here on the East Coast Sunday evening. Sunday show's back. College football's back. We just finished up a loaded week one Saturday slate. We got football on Sunday nights, and it's not that piss poor product they call the NFL. It's college football. And we have college football on tomorrow. I'm juiced to the gills. I know y'all are juiced to the gills. Dogs played this weekend. A lot of great football games this weekend. How are we doing this Sunday evening?
Yeah, when we agreed to do the Sunday show, I don't think we took into account that this Notre Dame-Miami game was going to be on, because I was like, in the middle of watching it, and Allison's like, don't you have a show to do? Yeah, I do. So here we are.
He's given up on Miami Notre Dame, his first love, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, to be here with us on a Sunday evening. Kobe, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm good, man. How about yourself? How's hour one of your 2-hour ensemble?
Man, I'm juiced. This is one of the only times I will do 2 straight hours of podcasting with 4 of my favorite people on this planet. So I can't wait. We got a lot to dive into today. I know we got a lot of reactions to get through with Georgia's game. Let's start with just overall game takeaways. Georgia whoops Marshall 45-7. Dominant from the beginning, had a fast start. My God, it feels great to come on a Georgia football podcast and not have to say the words slow start. Kobe, reaction to that?
Yeah, reaction is that we had it dialed up early. Tried to run the ball well and effective, and had some good plays dialed up. I think the wrinkles with Gunnar Stockton in the running game on 3rd and short is going to continue to be impressive. If nothing else, like I was kind of talking with a buddy of mine last night, if nothing else, you put it on film, and now the rest of the year, every team you play for the rest of the season is going to have to prepare for Gunnar Stockton, speed option left, to keep that forever. We may never run it again, but I just love the small little wrinkles here and there that have gone on in game one. Love a good fast start, kind of puts any Marshall lingering to bed early. What you think, Dan?
I know one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that there was a very vanilla play calling, and they weren't going to – they're not going to break out what they're going to use on Tennessee against Marshall. They didn't need to. That game was never in doubt. They were never in danger. And it's one of the things that Kirby's just kind of adopted, is that once he gets where he needs to get, to get a little bit of separation – I'm not going to say he called off the Dogs, but at the same time, they're not trying to score. Like, they're just trying to execute what they're doing, and I appreciate that. But like you said, the fast start, the first quarter, coming out, putting points on the board, and then second quarter, it's like they just shut it down. There was nothing aggressive being called, and I understand why they do it. I'm not over the top angry about it, but as a fan, you're like, oh, man, I wanted to see more. But I get it. You already had Gaston go out with an injury. You're not trying to get anybody else hurt at that point. And they just kind of dialed it back and just tried to execute. And they kind of turned it on a little bit later. But overall, my takeaway is on the offenses, there's a lot of mouths to feed. That was my biggest takeaway, is there's a lot of mouths to feed. I don't know how they're going to make anybody happy.
Dan, I want to talk about something that we talked about when I called you to get your thoughts on the game last night. You brought up the running back rotation, talking about, man, how does Georgia, when you talk about mouth speed like you just did, how does Georgia feed all these backs? Gunnar Stockton was the leading rusher, the first time the quarterback has led Georgia in rushing since Justin Fields versus UMass, 73 yards on 10 carries and 2 touchdowns. But in terms of the running backs, Dwight Phillips, the redshirt freshman, led the Dogs in rushing with 60 yards on 5 attempts and a touchdown. What's the rotation, gentlemen? I think after Saturday, it's Nate Frazier. Obviously, first and foremost, because that's the guy. And then maybe Dwight Phillips. Like, that guy showed us something on Saturday. And I get it. It's the first Marshall. But you look at his 17-yard scamper to the end zone on that outside toss. Man, boys, we had an outside toss at Georgia in the 2020s, and they took it to the house. One of the best blocked run plays they've had in 2 years. He broke a tackle on his way to the end zone. That's how fast he was. He broke a tackle on his way to the end zone. Got to get Dwight Phillips some touches. Kobe, I know you're about to unmute right there. Talk to me
Yeah.
about this outside toss.
It was wonderful because the best part is they basically line the tight end up in the opposite side of the formation and motioned him late in the snap count and treated him like the fullback, like we're talking about the fullback on the toss. The motion brought him across, and instead of just doing like a regular kick out or like a spill block on a defensive end, he actually was leading up into the hole onto that second level defender. That's that wrinkle on the Bobo toss sweep that we've been talking about in the offseason. And I like to see it because, again, it puts somebody in Oscar Delp, a big body, a 6'5", 245-pound person, on either a linebacker or a corner. And to me, 9 times out of 10, our guy is big enough, physical enough to win that block. And then all of a sudden you have, running back on corner, running back on safety, and what you're talking about, you break that one tackle and you're gone for a touchdown. So I like that. I think, I like the power run game more than a finesse run game. I always believe in pulling guards, pulling tackles, leading blockers. It just gives you a little bit more room for error than the zones typically do.
My favorite highlight that they did in-game broadcast was they were going to show that toss sweep, and they were going to show Ethan Barbour, the leading blocker on that play. And they're like, watch number 9 here. He does a great job of getting the block. They go to show the highlight. Bro, that Marshall player made a business decision and ran out of the way. Number 9 never touched him, but homeboy took himself out of the play. He's like, yeah, I'm good. Because that's exactly what you're talking about. When you have a giant human being coming off the edge, running full speed, looking just to mash somebody who they have a size advantage on, and whether you make the block or you don't, a lot of times those little guys make business decisions and they just go ahead and vacate the area. They're not interested in taking on that lead block. So, that's something that Kobe's been talking about all summer, about how he wants to see that little wrinkle put back in. So that was nice to see. You're asking about the running back rotation, and I was it's dangerous sometimes. I don't know what we're watching here because that's not what I was talking about. But here we go. We got Nate Frazier running the football.
Hold on. Dan missed it. Whoa. Dan, come on. You're talking about little guys making a business decision. Come on, look at the 73.
Oh. Yeah, but that guy didn't make a business decision. He tried to stand on business.
Took it. He took it.
He took it.
Long gassing. Sorry. Continue, sir. I just wanted to show you that.
Yeah, but I was like, it's a dangerous thing to go through Georgia fan sites and all that stuff. And then I saw over and over and over again where a lot of people are like, Dwight Phillips should be the starting running back. Like, he should get the first option to carries. And I'm like, part of me is like, you can't do that after one game. But then also, he just looked explosive. Yeah, and I know it's dangerous when you do that because of the opponent. Kobe knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's dangerous when you make proclamations when you're playing a team that you just outclass in every single way. But there is something to it when you watch a guy run the football and he's just got a little bit of juice to him. And Dwight Phillips has juice. So I'm not saying usurp the starting running back Nate Frazier and stick his ass on the bench. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that Georgia has to find a way to get that kid the football a little bit earlier in the game. I was actually surprised to see him get it that early initially, but then once you saw him get the ball and take off with it, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Here's my thing on that, on the depth chart, on who, a lot of mouths to feed. It's a long season, bumps and bruises and things are going to happen. I think in the portal era, in the NIL era, to sit back and say, hey, man, we maybe have 3 running backs that are starting caliber for this team is just nice to know, because that's something you haven't had the past, at least last season, maybe the past 2 seasons roughly. You probably weren't 3 to 4 running backs deep of guys that you're like, hey, if one goes down, we don't have 2, we have 1B. And to be kind of the way our running back rooms were stacked for years and years. You had first round guys at 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a depth chart. Nobody has that anymore. but it's nice on the years that you do get lucky where you're sitting here arguing, hey, man, Nate Frazier might have been the best running back on the roster last year. He didn't get enough carries. And then you play Marshall and you're like, Nate Frazier, bench that guy. Dwight Phillips, that's who I want. You're lucky for that. Yeah, everybody's overreactive. I mean, Nate Frazier's still going to be your starting running back going forward. The big thing is I'm just happy to see somebody running with a little bit of Kirby Smart, fire, passion, and energy.
Boys, let's stick on the topic of explosive players. I don't know. Obviously, Dwight Phillips, there's a little bit of debate. We can have a little bit of debate. Dwight Phillips and Zachariah Branch for most explosive player of the game. I mean, Zachariah Branch certainly made a strong case. I think he had, 4 catches for nearly 100 yards. Took that little screen pass, 47 yards to the house. 3 catches for 95 yards with that touchdown. Just explosive. His very first touch was, again, the screen pass, and you could hear it. When he caught that ball, you heard everybody at home, everybody at home saying, damn it, Bobo, damn these screen passes, because everybody thought, oh no, he's about to get tackled for a loss and going to pick up the first down. Makes the guy miss. Makes him miss. Does a little loop-de-loop around another defender. Makes another guy miss. And takes about 15 yards on 3rd and 2. Third down of the game. One of the first third downs of the game.
I spent all summer saying that I thought he was going to be electric here at University of Georgia. I did. And I'm not trying to say I'm some type of genius or anything. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the talent that he was playing with at USC, and then you put him into this offense where he is allowed to just be himself. He's not required to do anything else other than do what he does. We have Noah Thomas on one side. We have Colby Young on the other side. We have London Humphreys. We have a lot of guys that can contribute. We have a lot of guys with size. I always love to listen to people who are not necessarily dialed in, right, to see their reactions when something happens. So my wife, God love her, she loves the dogs, and she's watching. She's like, oh, my gosh, he's really little, right? So, I mean, that's just like the perspective that they get. But yeah, he's little, but he's so electric with the ball in his hands. And I just felt all summer long, and you can go back and watch any of our shows that we did. And honestly, we didn't do as many as we should have. But I felt like Zach Branch had a chance to be really special in this offense in the context of what they're going to ask him to do. And when your guy came on, he talked about his biggest impact was going to be in the return game. And we saw a little bit of that as well. So I think he's going to be really fun to watch. And I was telling my son on the couch, I was like, he's like, why are you so excited? I'm like, because we really haven't had a guy like this since Mecole Hardman. A guy who's just like just dynamite in the glass bottle, just in case of emergency, break glass, and just dynamite comes out of it. He's so explosive.
I think the biggest thing with Branch in terms of where he can make or break that Hardman comparison as a receiver, because as a returner, I think he could be better than Hardman. In fact, I think maybe he's already had a better career as a returner than Hardman did. But as a receiver, Hardman proved to be a downfield threat in the passing game. Like I think about that championship game, had that 40, 50-yard touchdown
down
pass
the right sideline.
Down the right sideline, that, man, everyone said, holy shit, like Georgia's in the lead. That's where I want to see Zachariah Branch. Can he be a threat downfield in the passing game? We saw it underneath. We saw it in the screen. We saw it in the intermediate passing game. But can he do it downfield? That was something that I don't think we'll have that question answered for a little bit in terms of Georgia's offense, just because of who their opponents are right now. But when we get to a Tennessee, when we get to an Alabama, what does Zachariah Branch do to test opponents downfield? I think that was obviously something that was missing from last year's passing game, and something that people are going to want to see going forward here with how Georgia's offense develops in terms of its downfield passing. Because that was something, other than a few attempts, Georgia really didn't throw it all too far downfield on Saturday.
I've got something for you. I'll talk about Zach Branch real quick before we talk about, maybe our passing game. Mecole Hardman, to me, Aaron Smith, in my mind, more that receiver, outside receiver, top end speed is there. That burst downfield to outrun a defender. I think the big question with both of them was always their ability to then catch that ball when they were out in front of a defender. I would say Zach Branch reminds me a lot more of someone I played with my freshman year in Isaiah McKenzie. The acceleration is there. The vision is there. The top end speed once he gets to it is there. All of those things make him electric in the punt and kick return because that suddenness, Mecole, I always think about when Mecole was running at full speed, he was probably faster than anybody I ever played football with. But it just took him a get to that full speed versus like a guy like Isaiah McKenzie, a guy like Zach Branch. They're there first step. Like the first step he takes, it can be one step and go. And that's what makes a return man dangerous. It's the same reason you saw him on that little swing pass, take it 47 yards. He caught the ball, turns upfield, and he sees the lane. You got Dylan Bell blocking his ass off way downfield on that play. But he sees the lane to get to the end zone. It's not like he's overthinking, like, man, do I need to cut this back into the field? How do I need to avoid this defender? I'm just going to run full speed to the pylon and make a read on this block late and score. So I think that to me, when I think of Zach Branch, I think a lot more Isaiah McKenzie than I think of the other two fellas.
Dan, how about Kirby Smart pulling Zachariah Branch on punt return after he misjudged that ball? Did anybody else notice that?
I did
Kobe
not.
White was on the next punt return. Kobe, I know you've probably been on the sideline or in the room when he pulled somebody. What's that conversation like for a returner when you misjudge a ball?
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know if anybody asked him in the post-game presser about it. If they did, I missed it. I know Sokovi's our backup returner at the moment. I'm not sure. They punted the ball odd to me, like not even in a way that looked purposeful, if that makes sense to Dan especially, but almost like some shin punts. Like, man dropped the ball a little high up the leg and it rolled off the shins and was tumbling and spinning all kind of different directions. Hey, I give him credit. He misjudged it a little bit, but I mean, I watched, I guess it was one of the games this weekend. Maybe it was the Alabama game. The guy let it short hop him, basically, 2 yards in front of him, bounced right up into his chest and back off of him. It's like, at least he knew enough to kind of get out of the way, allow the ball to roll. You're testing everybody right now. You're good for Sokovi to get in there and watch the ball fly some. Again, it's a longer season than it's ever been before. So, like you're saying, got a lot of mouths to feed, but the head ball coaches – short fuse on special teams. He wants them perfect every time.
And that's one of his babies too. Special teams is one of his babies, his little pet projects. It's like I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because they never went out and hired a special teams coach, right? That's something that they don't have. They don't have somebody with that.
We do.
We do have.
They have a special teams coordinator now, but for like 2 years before they changed the staffing number rule. Where all these off-field coaches can now be on-field coaches with no restrictions. Right. For a little bit, it was technically Will Muschamp, but now it's Kirk Benedict.
It floats. So, like, it was Shane Beamer my first 2 years. He was tight ends coach, special teams coordinator. Then it was Scott Fountain in 18, 19. And then in 20, I think it was Fountain. Or not Fountain.
Cochran.
Scott Cochran was 20, maybe 2021, and then nobody really in 2022, nobody really in 2023, and then I think it's been Kirk Benedict last year and this year. To my knowledge,
they didn't have one. Okay, yeah. All right. Well, but like you said, it's a long season. Special teams are very important. I always feel like the great teams make special teams a priority. Our coaches would always say it's 1/3 of the game, right? And it's the most overlooked third of the game because people focus so much on offense and defense. But you can really win or lose a game in special teams really quickly. I mean, one bad punt, a bad hold, a bad snap. I mean, anything like that can really turn the momentum of the game. So, and like you made a really good point, or you were getting ready to start a point, I think, and you were saying he's testing people. And I want to like extrapolate that out a little bit as to where I feel like he's testing people to see how he can coach them, right? Like, you coach them during practice or whatever, but games are very different. Emotions are very different in games. I mean, if you've ever played in a football game in your entire life, and you don't have to play in college, you don't have to play in the NFL, you just play a football game. You understand that the emotion in that game is completely different. You cannot manufacture that emotion at practice. As much as you try, you can get close, but you can't manufacture. So, how you can talk to somebody, how you can coach somebody, how hard you can go, how far you can go. Those are all things that coaches are the really good coaches are really good at figuring out pretty quick. Like, okay, this guy, I can ride his ass like nobody's business. This guy on Saturdays, I can tell him what I need to tell him, but I'm going to have to grab a hold of him at some point and pat him on the back and let him know I still love him, because there's just different types of people. So I thought that was, you just kind of mentioned that, and I was watching it. Kirby does something that a lot of other coaches don't do. After every play, he coaches something, right? He's coaching something on every play. Watch him. He never takes a play off. Like today during the freaking South Carolina game, Shane Beamer stops coaching in the middle to go over to the broadcaster, the sideline reporter, to say, hey, did you see that special teams play? That's something my dad would be proud of. Kirby Smart in a million effing years would never stop in the middle of a game to go talk to Michelle Tafoya or whoever's on the sideline. You'll never see that in the history of Kirby Smart. His coaching style, the way he's so focused and he coaches every detail, is just so different than everybody else. I don't know where the hell I just went, but I'm done now. And Harrison's a rookie.
Put me in a curveball in terms of trying to transition back into another phase of this game. Let's talk Gunnar Stockton. God, the stands always stuck with me. I think Dan said on this show before, the most popular person on a team is the backup quarterback. My God, it took one drive for the backup quarterback conversation to come right back up. You got people saying Ryan Puglisi should be the starting quarterback at the University of Georgia. I don't know what Gunnar Stockton did to deserve to lose the job. I don't know what Gunnar Stockton did to deserve even having the conversation. I thought Gunnar Stockton played a good game. He did exactly what they asked of him. He didn't turn the ball over once. He scored 4 times. He was responsible for 4 touchdowns. Yes, there are bits and pieces here and there that there are places for improvement. I will touch on those specifically here in a minute in terms of where I think he can improve. But guys, Georgia has a running quarterback again. Not somebody who can run, but somebody who will run. That's something they haven't had in 2 years. The offense looked a little bit different this year, or this past Saturday, than it did the 2 years before. They had a quarterback they ran a speed option with. They ran a read option with. They had a full design quarterback run game for him in the red zone. Wasn't a give, wasn't a read. It was a keep the entire way. What was y'all's reactions to Gunnar Stockton's performance on Saturday?
Quick, off the top of both of your heads, out of all the college football games y'all watched this weekend, name a quarterback that you think had a better opening weekend than Gunnar Stockton.
Maybe
Garrett Nussmeier.
Okay. A guy that's a first-round pick, top 15 pick. Dan?
While he wasn't perfect, I was really impressed with Julian Sang. I didn't think he was going to be as good as he was. And yes,
so a man didn't throw for 150 yards, and a man that's going to be a top 15 pick. That's, I guess that's where, like, my man at Texas didn't have a week to hang your hat on. There was a lot of quarterbacks that are great, or, the guy that you'd want to have leading your team that just don't have it. And I guess that's the thing that, Stetson was never a fan favorite for years. Gunnar doesn't have to be a fan favorite for me either. He just got to go win. And that's all that matters. And when the lights are on, I want him running the offense at the moment. I'm not saying 8, 9, 10 games down the season, I can't say, hey, listen, some of these things that were concerns early in the year, now they're problems. But just having concerns after a man's first start in the home stadium, I'm not ready to let any ship sail away after that. So I thought he played a good game. I loved the wrinkles in the run game. Thought he threw the ball well at times. Thought he didn't throw the ball well at times. I could say that about everybody on the team. Thought he blocked well at times. Thought he didn't block well at times. Harrison's still muted. Man, is hour 2 is kicking his ass tonight, everybody.
Look, listen, my takeaway on Gunnar Stockton is that's the Gunnar Stockton that I watched for 2 years at Raven County. I mean, in 2 years, I did four of his games in 2 years when he was at Raven County. So I got to see him. 2 of the 4 were against Jefferson. I don't remember who the other 2 were, but it doesn't matter. But the Gunnar that we saw yesterday is the Gunnar that I saw in high school. Like he will run the ball, he will pull the ball, he will make throws. He's not scared. He's got a strong enough arm to make the throws that he needs to make. Did he miss some guys? Yeah, he did. You know, he did the same thing in high school. There's guys that he missed, but he's just a gamer. And that's my biggest takeaway with him is I sent it in our group chat. I was like Stetson 2.0, meaning like Stetson, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean this in the best way. He doesn't give a shit. Like he's not intimidated by you. He's not scared by you. He doesn't care about anything other than just beating your tail. And he'll do it by any means necessary. Is he going to make mistakes along the way? Sure, absolutely. But he's the guy who's not going to quit, and you're not going to knock him out. Like that's the one thing that I admire about any quarterback who's physical like that. Like you can pound them into the ground, slam them, jump on them, people's elbow, and they're going to get right back up and go back into the huddle. And the one thing that they're not doing is blaming people. Like there was a play where I don't remember who it was. It might have been Dylan Belt, but somebody had a drop. And on the sidelines, and I'm not a lip reader. I don't know this is what it said, but it looked to me like the receiver was like, my bad. And Gunnar was like, no, it's on me. It definitely wasn't on Gunnar, but I love that type of thing. And maybe that's not what the conversation was. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was, hey, I got the beer tonight. No, I'll buy it. I don't know. But just the body language there, I really liked it. And I have no idea what's going on because I'm done with my point. And now I'm on the screen by myself. And Harrison's on mute. Just don't mute your thing.
Yeah. No worries. I agree with you. I think that gamers are special quarterbacks, right? Like when we think about all-time gamers, I think for Georgia fans right now, Stetson definitely comes to mind as most recent. But, I thought I would be intrigued to the people that like the way Pug played, and I like the way Pug played. I thought he came in and played really well. I would be interested to know what Gunnar could have done better. Could he thrown for 350? Yeah. Could maybe have thrown for 450? Of course. But I thought probably the most interesting thing to me, and I'll be interested if Harrison noticed this, is when I thought it would have been time to have pulled Gunnar and let Pug run a drive with the ones offense, the opposite happened. They pulled the ones offense, and Gunnar ran a drive with the twos, everybody else. That was probably the most interesting thing I saw all day that I've been wanting to talk about.
That was the last drive he was in, right?
The last drive Gunnar was in,
yeah.
It was with the entire twos offense with the ones quarterback. I thought that was just a very interesting little tidbit that I'm sure will be all over the talking heads all week.
I didn't notice it live in action. It was when I went back and watched the tape of the game that I realized Jazeer Jackson was in at left tackle. Bo Hughley was already in at right tackle. Cortez Smith was at center. Yeah, I mean, they were out there with the twos offense with Gunnar leading the way.
The only reason I noticed is because they said it on the TV.
Yeah.
They pointed out they pulled everybody.
And that's big for probably this one reason. There's already a possibility where you need a Jazeer Jackson, where you need a Cortez Smith, where you need a Bo Hughley to play big-time snaps in big-time games. And that offensive line depth is already being tested. I mean, we're talking about Bo Hughley and Daniel Calhoun. Those guys haven't played in major college football games. They have yet to do it. This was their first big action in a regular game, in a regular season game. I'll be curious. I know that's one of the questions I have teed up with Kirby. Kirby said post-game that he thought Bo played really well. Now, granted, that was just at first glance. I'm going to ask him on Tuesday when we talk to him what he thought after viewing the tape of Hughley and Calhoun. I'm sure there's going to be conversation around those guys. But To get back to what you were talking about with Stockton, yeah, I think he left some plays on the field. So did everybody else. That's the thing I'm looking forward to seeing in that first real game when he goes on the road to Knoxville. How does that Georgia passing game look? What does he look like? Because I think the most glaring miss of the day, aside from the Oscar Delp tad bit of an underthrow, was start of the third quarter. They were in a little shotgun play action, fake to give it to the back. Gunnar has his eyes down the field. They had Noah Thomas running a deep post and Colby Young on a deep over. And eyes are in the center of the field looking that way. I don't know. I can't tell who he's looking at. I don't know if he just saw Thomas, didn't see Colby. I don't know what it was. Colby's running wide open on the underneath deep over, and Gunnar doesn't see him, decides not to throw it, rolls to his right and throws it away. You're talking about probably 15 to 25 yards in field position difference there in terms of the throwaway or the potential to completion to Colby. That happens. We'll see how things change down the road with Gunnar. Guys, let's talk about the defense. I know there's not much that can be made of it. Again, it was Marshall. Pop quiz. This was a great point made on the last show. Can anybody guess? Does anybody know who the leading tackler was for Georgia on Saturday?
Zachariah Branch.
Whoo, Kobe. Damn it. Hey, he might be getting his ass whooped on the picks, but he's going to know that box score. He's going to know that box score.
Sometimes you just got to know ball. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Amen. Amen, brother. Amen. Any general impressions from the defense that y'all saw on Saturday?
Yeah, they're fast. Go ahead, Kobe. I'll let you talk. But
no, go ahead, Dano. Start us off hot. I like that. That's a great. They're athletic and fast.
They're fast. Like that was my biggest takeaway. Is like there were times where,
you muted yourself in the middle of that.
No, Harrison muted me. I don't know what he's doing, bro. Come on. All right, so there were times where, and I'll use air quotes because I don't know for sure, but it looked like there was like a little bit of a busted play, right? Where a guy was open. But the speed in which they rallied to the ball and closed that space. And I know that the fact is Marshall probably plays a big part in that because you don't want to be doing that against Alabama, Tennessee, or Texas or something like that. But just the speed in which they closed and then how quickly they were able to get into the backfield and just the number of bodies. It was like every single play it felt like, and I know this isn't true, but it just felt like it was like 11 new guys on every single play. Because you'd be like Elijah Griffin on this play, then the next play it's Hall, then the next play it's McIntyre or McLeod, then the next play it's Green. There was or whoever. It was just got name after name after name making plays. Who was it? I was asking. I was like, hey, did the linebacker Isaiah Gibson get in? And like the second I asked, did Isaiah Gibson in? He's like, yep, just made a tackle on this play. I mean, it was just like they were all making plays. It was incredible to me the amount of people they rolled in on defense, and like it never felt like it fell off. And I can't say that it's always been that way.
I would say the biggest thing I noticed from my defensive thing was exactly what we talked about in our depth chart preview show earlier in the week, where I said that there's going to be a group of the ones and a group of the next guys up. We played all three DBs for a majority of the game. You played Ellis Robinson, you played Daniel Harris, you played Everett. And they played meaningful snaps on the field at the same time. They moved around. They did a lot of things like that.
I'm about to blow your mind. Everett didn't play.
At all?
At all. He was in a boot. That's wild, right?
That is wild. I thought that he was
I didn't know that. I found that out today.
He didn't play the whole game, Harrison? Are we sure?
He was out. He was out the entire game.
Interesting.
I found that out today. I'm just like you. I thought he played.
I'm sitting there in the binoculars thinking he's playing.
That's a good thing.
It is. Raylan Wilson, though, is definitely the person that I noticed the most that I think during parts of last year when there were some questions about our linebackers and their tackling and some play down the stretch, I thought your inside linebackers, but especially Raylan Wilson's a name that comes to mind, that made a lot of tackles, made a lot of plays for the defense. And like you're saying, when the ones were in, I mean, would they have 36 yards at halftime? Marshall did. And given, like you're saying, it's Marshall, but they still have Division I athletes over there. Like sometimes, listen, they still getting paid to play college football over at Marshall. Every single one of them are. So, I get it. If they're not, whatever, but they
signed up to play.
They're better than probably 90% of anybody you've ever played against in your life. So,
well, one of the things that I was going to – oh, my gosh, I just blanked on it because it was one of the last points you made, but just go, Harrison. I'll think of it. Sorry, I just blanked.
You're good. Kobe, I pulled up the stat. Brent Rollins put this in his piece over at UJ Sports. 79 players got snaps for Georgia on defense and offense this week combined. 79. And the defense, I think, accounted for the majority of those players. That's astronomical. Dan, go ahead.
One of the interesting points that I thought was made during the game was that the coach for Marshall was talking about he was going to play his quarterbacks, multiple quarterbacks, because he's like, this Georgia defense is so good that I don't want to destroy the confidence of my quarterbacks by leaving one of them in there. So I kind of want to just play all of them and let them he didn't say it this way, but kind of let them all get their ass beat so that like it's not just one having a really, really bad day. I thought that was interesting. I've never heard a coach, and I'm sure somebody has said it, but I've never heard a coach say, I don't want this defense to destroy my quarterback's confidence for the rest of the season. And I think that tells you how good that damn defense is, that the other coach was actually concerned about that.
Well, and I think more so than anything, I mean, that's the best defense Marshall's going to play all year. I don't know who else they have on their yeah. So I don't know who else they have on their schedule. I mean, they may play another good opponent. I'm looking at their schedule. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, Georgia's the best defense they're going to play all year. But yeah, I didn't catch that, Dan. Did not catch that.
Yeah, the sideline reporter, that was her little side bit when they said, hey, did you check in with the coach of Marshall? And he's like, yeah. The reason you're seeing multiple quarterbacks is because he doesn't want one of them to have a really bad day by himself. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Damn. I get it.
Damn. Well, hey, great point. That's the benefit. All three of us had different perspectives, different ways we watch this game. So we can all bring something a little bit different. I didn't catch any of the sideline reports. Damn. Well, that's interesting. I might have to go look at the transcripts from his Tony Gibson's presser to see if he was asked about that post game.
Yeah, because you saw it in real time. They were basically doing like 2 series for one quarterback, and then the other quarterback would get like 2 series, and they were just rotating them. And there was no rhyme or reason to it, so that's why they asked him.
Hell yeah. All right. I guess it is the third phase of the game, and I have 2 special teams players here. Let's talk some special teams. I know we talked return game.
Let's go. Special teams.
Brett,
here we go. Screw offense. Screw defense.
Brett Thorson did not play on Saturday. I don't think that surprised anybody. Certainly didn't surprise us. When Kirby said he was cleared for kicking, but not live action, I think that's probably the expectation. Like, hey, probably not going to get back in 5 days or however many days it was. What were y'all's take on Drew Miller? I thought he played pretty damn well considering the circumstances. I know it was Marshall again, but just
that doesn't matter. The opponent does not matter for special teams. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Tell him, Dan.
Marshall was booming the shit out of it. That was more than he did last year in the Notre Dame game and the SEC championship game. He had a good day. I felt like I don't know, Kobe, what you felt like, but I felt like our punter had a really good day.
Yeah, here we go. I bet Harrison's looking at the stat sheet right now. Watch me pull this for you, Harrison. Pretty sure, if I remember right, it was 48.5 yards per punt for him on Saturday.
Take that all effing day.
Ooh, it was 48 flat, but
nice.
Half a point. I mean, you're balling right now, Kobe.
So, like you're saying, he had a really nice day. Let Thorson get as healthy as he can. Like you're saying, you're not even on Thorson's best days. You're splitting hairs on the distance. I think they both have phenomenal distance legs, I'd say as like an actual like somebody that's like watched and charted punts, and if we're getting into nitty gritty things, I would say that probably sometimes his hang didn't always match his distance on the punts like Thorson's does. Like I think what made Jake Camarda so special, what makes Brett Thorson even more special is like when your punts are just moon balls and they still go, like you're saying, well, all this they just need to match, right? Like a 55-yard punt, you need to be teetering as close to that 5-second hang as you can. And I think that's the thing about Thorson that kind of separates him from the rest is, he's kicking the ball way up in the air and way down the field. It's always a good mixture. It lets your gunners get down there properly, defend the punts. And then as far as field goal, man made all his PATs, made his one field goal of the afternoon. Have you a day. Kickoffs looked good. Kickoff return looked fine. They tried their best to kick the ball out of the end zone on us. I'm not really sure we had a single kickoff return now that I think about it. But then kickoff coverage, they tried to take a couple out of the end zone for us. And the kick return man paid one time pretty hard at about the 17-yard line.
Bradshaw's son.
Yeah, he paid the price for taking one out off of a logo letter and ran that ball out to about the 17. And I think that typically a hit like that's enough to say, hey, we'll take the ball at 25. Like we're going to be okay today. And then, like you're saying, punt. We have punt blocked in the game. So, like you're saying, you just can't ask for anything better than that as far as special teams goes.
What other Georgia show gives you 10 minutes, about 10 minutes on special teams breakdown? I don't know one. And there's a bunch of great Georgia shows, but there's about 10 minutes in here talking special teams from Saturday.
Well, we can keep going too because I think
it matters to the head ball coach. It should matter to you. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we take special teams serious here, and you guys don't want to write about it, Harrison.
Damn it, Dan. Why'd you have to call me out on that one?
He told you to your face.
I was asking. I was going to write a Drew Miller article. I wasn't, but I'll do it for Dan.
No, but I mean,
if I do, I'll send it to Dan.
Kobe brought up a good point about your vectors matching, where if this is a little unknown fact is pretty much not every punter, but once you get to that level, you can punt the ball 80 yards. You can. But the problem is to do that, you got to kick it at a trajectory to where, unless you have wind behind you, you got to kick it at a trajectory to where nobody can cover that punt. So if I'm punting the ball 80 yards, that's selfish. Unless I see that the guy is really far up, like he does, and I can kick it over his head and we can chase it. That's different. But what he's talking about is you want that good 45 to 50 to 55-yard punt, but you want that 5-second hang time if you can get it. And there's not a lot of guys out there that can get a hang time over 5 seconds when they're kicking it that far. And that's really what separates the greats from the goods to the guys who don't really make it, is that hang time. The hang time is everything, because if you think about it, most of your gunners are 4-4s, 4-5s. And you want them to get underneath that ball. And I think I just went way too much. So.
Kobe's over here laid back, getting flashbacks to special teams beating the Georgia, because Dan's over here talking about hang time for a good bit. Hey, I'm laughing because Kobe's over here just laid back, just having a grand old time as Dan's giving a little hang time breakdown over here on punt team. Hell yeah, Dan.
That was my biggest. When I got to college, that was my biggest problem, is that I could kick the shit out of the ball, and I was out kicking coverage, and that was something that I had to fix. And if I couldn't fix it, I couldn't play, because they're not.
Dan knows the definition between out kicking your coverage, is what he just told us over here in the punt game. So hell yeah, Dan.
I didn't have the hang time. That was my biggest problem.
Gentlemen, before we get into picks, there were some other scores around college football. The beauty of the Sunday show is we can go a full hour on Georgia when we need to, when we want to. But sometimes, like this weekend, there are some things outside of the Georgia realm that we got to get into. First, what the heck going on in Tallahassee? Alabama goes down to Tallahassee, loses to a team that lost 10 games last year. A lot of un-Alabama-like issues going on there. Gentlemen, is it just me, Or does this make you a little bit even more concerned about what that game in Athens is going to look like from the Tide, just in terms of they stunk it up
Better not
last
lose
night?
that. You better not lose that game. That's all I got to say. After watching what I just saw today, you better not lose that game. You got Alabama fans out here calling for bro's head. Like Nick Saban versus unranked teams was 252-4, and Kalen DeBoer is 16-4 against unranked teams or something like that. Or not even. I mean, it's not even 16-4. It's like 4-2 or something. I don't know what it is, but it ain't good. It ain't good. Alabama's not used to losing like that. Nick Saban kind of stuck up for him a little bit on TV. Said, "Hey, man, they got a lot of new things going on. You got a brand new culture coming in. You got he was excuse making for him a little bit, just saying that they got a lot of stuff to work out, a lot of change. So, they have players. That is not a problem. I mean, a lot of times, Kobe, you can speak to this. When there's a regime change, a lot of times everybody leaves and the cupboard is bare. But that is not the case in Alabama. That cupboard is not bare. They have a lot of talent. And didn't they have the number one recruiting class? Or no, it was number 3 because Texas was number 1, weren't they?
I believe so. Yeah. In a million years, after what Thomas Castellanos said in preseason about calling his shot and saying Nick Saban ain't there to save you anymore, I would have taken Alabama 10 times out of 10. And twice on Sundays. And he went down there and he did it.
We did it on Wednesday too.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And that was a loss for both of you in the picks column.
Damn right it was.
And he did it. And now he's printing T-shirts. Talk about Nick ain't there to save him. Kobe.
God bless him.
I know you said you were able to watch some of this game.
Oh, yeah. Watched it. I was sitting section 137 with the phone on the thigh watching the whole thing. It's amazing. Shout out telephone companies, how much better phone signal is in Sanford Stadium these days. Because here I am. We're just hanging out, baby. Just watching us block punts,
You
play
beers
Marshall.
deep at that point?
Only one. Only have one. They're too tall. Can't have a couple. Too tall. Can't have a couple. I think the big thing for that game, and like you're saying, is when I look back at because I definitely like to go back when people talk about who had a good day, who had a bad day, because sometimes people like to stat puke at you of like, oh, this guy had these stats, so he had, and not like they didn't watch the game. I thought Castellanos played a really, really good game in a game that was rainy, it was wet, it was dirty. And then I went back and looked, and like as far as Florida State's offensive stats, nothing just like jumped off the page comparatively, besides the fact that they just ran the ball. I mean, he had so many explosive runs, and then the other guy, Dancy or something like that had a couple of really big runs. It was like the two of them alone accounted for over half their rushing yards. And it was just backbreaking for Alabama when they were running the ball. It wasn't really that he threw the ball a lot or for a lot of yards. It was just effective. And I think that's what is just crazy is like Ty Simpson threw the ball for like 257 yards on Saturday. But Alabama just could not run the ball when they needed to. And I think that's where it's always concerning with a SEC Power 5 football team. When you need 2 or 3 yards, you've got to be able to lean on your big fellas up front and go get it. And when that's not happening and you're having to, throw the ball on downs that maybe you should be running the ball, it just kind of sets you up for weird situations, exotic blitzes, mixing up coverages. And I think, like you're saying, FSU did that enough that they dominated this game. Honestly, I mean, they from the jump looked better, which is crazy to think about. So, like you're saying, it's still Alabama. Kalen DeBoer is still a really good coach. Do I think Nick Saban probably wins this game if he's the head coach? Yeah, but I think that's But I also just think
He
like
ain't there to save
that's
him anymore,
something
Kobe.
that's something that Kalen DeBoer knew when he took the job, that no matter what he did, he was always going to be in the man's shadow. He just got to take the money and smile and try to put out the best product he can this season. And I think it's going to be an extremely competitive game when they come to Athens. It's going to be a tough game. They're going to be able to, if our defense stops them from running the ball the way that Florida State did, we'll win that football game without a doubt in my mind.
Look,
But to think they're just going to roll into town and roll over is not at all what I think about the rest of their season. It's the same thing I think personally about Texas. We're going to get into that, but like people are already checking Texas off the list for the year. Don't be too quick to be checking them off either. Go ahead, Big Dan. Sorry to steal your thunder.
No, I think this is Florida State is the epitome of the transfer portal. Year one, Norvell gets it right and has a team that was undefeated. Then year two, goes back into the portal real heavy, gets DJ Ungule, and he's an absolute cancer to that team and destroys it from within. And then this year, 38 more transfers. And seems to have gotten the majority of them right. I didn't watch the whole game. I watched bits and pieces of it. But from what I saw, they looked really good. And I think that's kind of the world that we're living in now. If you're going to rely that heavily on transfer portals, you're not going to get it right every time. So it's just what I think Harrison sent me a text. It was something like going 2-10 and then whatever, then beating Alabama. He's like, this is wild. And yeah, I just agree.
Gus Malzahn post game felt like old times tonight. From the top rope.
Alabama kryptonite.
Absolutely.
I mean,
No,
the man was 500 against Nick Saban in his prime. To Dan, sorry.
No, to finish up my point, I think what we're seeing at Florida State is just going to be something that you're going to see during this transfer portal era where you can have a really good team one year, a really bad team next year because you're not going to get it right every single time. And I think it looks to me like they may have gotten it right this time, Harris. And Castellanos can be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, quarterback run, like it did the Georgia last year, gave Alabama fits. I saw a heavy dose of quarterback of power read, counter read, you name it. Design quarterback run game. FSU used it. Gus Malzahn used it. Great scheme. Gave this defense trouble. It was an Alabama defense that people have picked to be one of the top defenses in the league, in the country. They didn't look like that on Saturday. They're going to figure some things out. I'm curious to see what FSU does down the line. Is this, hey, you pull a great big upset, now you're going to go on and go 7-5, or is this going to be a really good year for FSU? We will see. Something tells me it's going to be, they're going to live and die by Thomas Castellanos, and we'll see how that goes. Let's talk Texas, because man, oh man, did the media set up Arch Manning for failure. This is not the greatest quarterback to ever touch a football. Not right now. Not right now. Not at the present. He may be when it's all said and done, but he ain't that right now. He looked human. He looked like a quarterback who had just 2 career starts heading into one of the biggest games of his life in the Horseshoe in front of 90-some, 100-some thousand people, all wearing red. There wasn't much orange up there in Ohio. Texas as a whole, offensively, it looked very similar to what we had seen in the first matchup against Ohio State, in the first matchup against Georgia. Ohio State had them well scouted. Matt Patricia called a hell of a game. And man, when you go back and you turn on the tape, when you go watch that football game, you could tell it was obvious. The 2 best players on the field both wore red, were scarlet. I'm sorry. Caleb Downs, my God. I know he didn't come up with an interception or anything, but if you go watch that game, you go watch what he did on tape. Caleb Downs was at the heart of that Ohio State defense, and he helped shut down a Texas passing game where when it was at its best, it's with a quarterback that's on time, that's in a rhythm, that's decisive, that's accurate with the football. Arch Manning was not that last night. Was not that yesterday afternoon. That wasn't the same quarterback, shocker, that was put on tape versus Mississippi State and whoever the hell else he played in his first career start at Texas. And this isn't to bash on the kid. This is just to say, hey, next time, Paul Feinbaum, you want to go on SEC Network and say a kid's going to be the next Tim Tebow, let's actually wait till he plays in more than 2 games as a starting quarterback, because that was foolishness. Just foolishness to say that on national television.
You feel better now?
I feel great.
That felt
I've
personal.
been great.
That felt like,
hey,
we need to call in. I feel like we need to call in tomorrow to the show. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
This is Harrison Reno, Athens, Georgia. I got some words for you, Paul. I agree. I won't say the media, Harrison, because I love you. But sometimes they magnify on one person and they want to go, we were right first. We were all right first. Texas with the quarterback, Texas is going to be the best team ever. This may be the best team since 2019 LSU and Joe Burrow. And then you go to Ohio State and you score 1 touchdown and you lose the first game. Arch looks average. Maybe we could say below average, but finishes the game fairly average. Has a pretty slow first half in his first road start against what is probably going to be a top 5 defense in college football. Julian Sayin doesn't look much better against a top 10 defense in college football. It's just one of those games that it's so difficult. Like you're saying, you've set this guy up to be, an NFL level quarterback from the jump. And just most people aren't. Most people, it just takes time. It takes reps. It takes live game reps to be good enough to play at a high enough level to be an elite college football quarterback, especially in the offense. The way Sark would say, like you're saying, it's going to be based off timing. It's going to be based off some different things. I think the biggest thing that I noticed was Texas had their troubles running the ball. Shout out Ohio State's front 7. Shout out the game plan they had. But I think Texas at its core last year, when they were really humming, they were running the ball extremely, extremely efficiently. If I remember right, at one point maybe they were like the number 1 rushing offense in the SEC, maybe even borderline in the country.
There was like a 4-week stretch at the end of that year, right before the SEC championship. They were leading the conference, like you said, in rushing. They were running the ball effectively for those 4 weeks right up until the Georgia game. You're right, Kobe. You're right. No. I'm commending you. I mean, yeah, fantastic point on that one. And they got to figure something out because it was obvious from the jump. Matt Patricia in Ohio State, who Matt Patricia hasn't coordinated, hasn't coached in a college game in 20 years before yesterday, was fine with letting them methodically get on the field or try to be methodical and going down the field. What they weren't going to do was give up any explosive plays down the field. I mean, he was fine with Arch Manning picking up a first down, being superhero for a good 5 seconds to pick up the first down with his legs. But other than that, they gave him nothing else.
Well, it wasn't hard for Matt Patricia because he's coaching an NFL defense. I mean, he is. Let's just call a spade a spade. That's an NFL defense they have up there in Columbus, and he's doing a great job with it. He's able to do probably more with that defense than you could do at like Georgia Southern, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have the bits and pieces to run the complex schemes and stuff. And one of the things that they have the advantage of is they have the smartest player in the world playing defense for them. It's Caleb Downs. He's extremely intelligent. He thinks, it's like, when I coach Trajan in basketball, it's like he's always 2 or 3 steps ahead of everybody else mentally. And Caleb was the same way. I watched Caleb play since he was 9 years old. And there's never been a game where he wasn't the best player on the field. And it's very hard to wrap your brain around the fact that is continued to this day. Even when he was a freshman, when he's on the field, he's just the best player on the field. He's just that damn good. And like to watch that kid's evolution, his work ethic has never been a question. And if you ever meet him, he's the most professional human on earth. Like it's like people are just different from one another. And I've never met a kid so refined. Everything that he does is like perfect. It's so weird. I've never been around anybody like that in my life where everything he does is perfect. Like the way he talks is perfect. Like I watched him after a state championship game where he did everything. He was completely exhausted, just worn out. I'm talking about this guy had not an ounce of energy left to him. And all these little kids came up and wanted to take a picture with him. And you could just see the exhaustion on his face. As soon as that camera got raised up, he's just in it. Like it's just hard to describe. I don't know how you would describe it. It's just he turns it on. He's just perfect all the time. So you got that on defense, and then you got a kid, Arch Manning, who, and I know this is a point of contention with Harrison and I, right? And you have a lot of these players that absolutely dominate on the lower levels of high school football. And then like Arch has been in college for a couple of years, so he's gotten to practice again. So I don't think it's that with him anymore. But my point is that it doesn't prepare you for what you're about to face because you are so significantly better than everybody you play in high school. Then you come into college and everybody's really, really good. I mean, everybody's really, really good. And it takes some people a little bit of time. I think one thing that gets overlooked is when you talk about that Joe Burrow 2019 team, right, and how amazing they were. That was his second year in that offense. And Matt Ryan always talked about his second year in Shanahan's offense is when everything took off. Like, it was just amazing, right? So, yeah, did Arch struggle? Absolutely. Was there things that you just cannot do as a quarterback? Like, there were throws that you just can't miss that he did. But at the end of the day, Arch is going to be really freaking good, dude. Like, I mean, raise your hand if you think that was the best you're going to see out of Arch. I mean, that's bullcrap. Nobody believes that. But you're 100% right, Harrison, when you said he was set up for failure. There was no way he could exceed expectations because the expectations were a million miles high. But then look at the other sideline. Julian saying he's had 1 year less in college than Arch has. He was the quarterback class after Arch. So he's got 1 year less experience of being in there. He hasn't started a game. Arch has started 2 games. He comes in, wasn't perfect to Kobe's point. It's not like he was that much better. But, everybody wants to shit on Arch or whatever. Well, Julian's saying, I thought he handled the moment. I mean, was he perfect? No, but at no point did I feel like he was completely overwhelmed. I felt like Arch was I think Arch was trying to be Superman. He was trying to live up to all the expectations on one throw. Like on every single throw, he had the weight of the world on him. And I think and he was doing all that talking going in and talking about it's just a game. I'm fine. It's like, bro, I hear you. I love the fact that you're trying to put out that positive spin, but you're a human being, and there's no human being that can take the amount of praise that you got and not hear it, and then also understand the expectations. So what's that thing? The everything that could go wrong did go wrong. What's that?
That's it.
That's just what it was.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law, right? That was the ultimate Murphy's Law game for Arch Manning. There was no escaping it. But do I think that's what we're going to see in the next 10 to 12 weeks? No, I don't. I think he's going to be absolutely fine. And I think he's going to be very, very good. So that was my takeaway is that it was, and I like Arch. I do. So I was a little disappointed, but I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah. I think here's the scary part for both these teams. That's probably one of the worst performances you're going to see from either of those teams all year long.
100%.
If you think that was the best product Ohio State's had or is going to have, you're going to be wrong. Julian Sand probably won't go 13 of 20 for 126 yards and a touchdown. Probably won't be that pedestrian again. Won't have to manage a game quite like that. I mean, both sides just ask their quarterbacks, hey, don't lose us the game. And I don't think Arch lost Texas the game, but he didn't make the plays in order to win them the game. I think that's fair to say. And then on the other side, Julian Sand it was going to come down to who made the mistake. Arch made the mistake that ended up giving up a touchdown there in the fourth quarter. Super catch by Carnell Tate on that play to get them in the end zone, to give them a lead in the fourth quarter. And then it came down to the drive. Arch Manning had the ball in his hands with a chance to tie the game late. Texas couldn't make the plays. Guys, they were 0 of 2 in the red zone. Again, that was one of the first questions to Steve Sarkisian at media days was, you were awful in the red zone. How are you going to improve? And he said, hey, I appreciate you challenging me. He's like, we've been working on it. Well, those didn't show up in game 1. We'll see how that goes early this year. But we did see changes. Obviously, they're going to use Arch Manning in the red zone. But like to Dan's point, to Kobe's point, this was not the best product from either of them. And for the rest of the country, that's a scary proposition. That certainly won't be the same Texas team that makes its way into Athens on November 15th later this year. All right. We've had our humble pie. We've had our celebration cake. Now it's time to dive into these picks. Kobe, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to bring up this record that I'm about to show. But here's where we stand, gentlemen. In parentheses is the overall record through 2 weeks. The one to the left, not in parentheses, is the record for the weekend. Dan wins it again. Dan goes 3-2. He had Auburn minus 2.5. They covered. He had Tennessee minus 13.5. They covered. He had LSU plus 3.5. They covered. Only losses, Alabama. That was, I think, between the both of them. Texas plus 1.5. Texas did not cover. Could have went either way on that game. Kobe. We got to figure out a ways to get you some wins. Baylor did not win outright. Syracuse outright didn't come to fruition. Didn't even cover. Bama, like Dan, I don't know who saw that coming. Clemson let you down. But the one winner of the weekend, Ohio State minus 1.5, that cashed. Kobe, thoughts in terms of that record? 2-6 on the year.
Yeah, just give it time. Time to ease its way out. Just listen. It's like Steve Sarkisian, you know what I'm saying? Thanks for challenging me. About to go on a little run here. Just for Dano.
Dan, 6-2.
Listen, I tried to tell him last week. Like, it's just something about picking games. I don't know what it is. Just got, 3-2. I'm a little disappointed, to be completely honest. I expected more out of myself, but we'll right the ship, okay? Listen, I'm Kirby. I'm going to pay attention to details this week. I'm not going to let the little shit go. So, yeah, I'll be all right. I'll be all right.
Dan talked with me about this like last year about just like his magic in terms of these picks. And he's like, I think what makes me different from everybody else is like, I just don't overthink it. I just give boom, you give me a line, I make my take. Like Dan's like, y'all go into it a little more analytical, but he's like, I hear the line and I just go with my gut. It's just Dan's gut is the way he looks at it. So, hey, maybe I should just go with my gut.
My gut's big enough.
Hey, if it works, it works. 6-2, 2-6 to start the year for Kobe. Rough start. We'll see how Kobe gets it going here in over the next few weeks. We got a loaded slate. We have a loaded show planned for you on Wednesday. We haven't planned it yet, but it's going to be loaded. As always, thank you for tuning in tonight. Sunday show's back. We were live here. We'll be live every Sunday at 8:30 approximately. Might differ week to week, but it will be around 8:30. We appreciate you for being here. That's Dan Kiley. That's Kobe Pierce. Yes, I'm Harris Arena. We'll be back here next week with we'll be here on Wednesday with our regular show over here on the Top Dog Talk podcast live at 8:30. We appreciate y'all for being here. Make sure to like and subscribe. 7:30. Good God. We got 2 times over here. Sorry, wasn't my best performance tonight. Second hour kicked my butt. We'll be better next week.
Dogs win.